Question 1. Operational review demonstrates that a new web application is being developed to manage user profiles and sensitive account information. The development team is considering different rendering strategies. Which approach best aligns with the regulatory framework for the Associate in Information Technology, 8. Exam, which mandates robust data protection and privacy controls for user data. Option A. Implementing a server-side rendering, SSR, strategy to process and render data on the server before sending it to the client. Option B. Adopting a hybrid rendering model that prioritizes rapid UI updates with minimal server interaction for most data. Option C. Relying solely on client-side rendering, CSR, to dynamically update the user interface directly in the browser. Option D. Developing the application without specific consideration for rendering strategies, focusing solely on feature implementation. The correct answer is A. Implementing a server-side rendering, SSR, strategy to process and render data on the server before sending it to the client. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the need for efficient web development with the imperative to adhere to specific regulatory frameworks governing data handling and user privacy. The challenge lies in identifying which development approach aligns with the mandated regulatory compliance, ensuring that the chosen method does not inadvertently create vulnerabilities or violate established guidelines. Careful judgment is required to select an approach that is not only technically sound, but also legally and ethically defensible. The correct approach involves implementing a server-side rendering, SSR, strategy for the web application. This is the best professional practice because it ensures that sensitive user data is processed and rendered on the server before being sent to the client's browser. This minimizes the exposure of raw data to the client-side environment, which is a critical control measure for protecting user privacy and complying with data protection regulations. Specifically, for the Associate in Information Technology, 8. Exam, which operates under a hypothetical jurisdiction that emphasizes data minimization and secure processing. SSR aligns with the principle of keeping sensitive information away from potentially less secure client environments. This approach directly supports the regulatory requirement to protect personal data from unauthorized access or disclosure during transit and rendering. An incorrect approach would be to rely solely on client-side rendering, CSR, without adequate security measures. This is professionally unacceptable because it shifts the burden of data processing and rendering to the user's browser. In a regulatory environment that prioritizes data security, this can lead to significant ethical and legal failures. If user data, such as authentication tokens or personal identifiable information, PI, is handled extensively on the client side, it becomes more susceptible to interception, manipulation, or leakage through browser vulnerabilities or malicious scripts. This directly contravenes the spirit and letter of data protection laws that mandate secure processing and storage of personal data. Another incorrect approach would be to use a hybrid rendering model that prioritizes speed over security, potentially exposing more data to the client than necessary. This is professionally unacceptable as it demonstrates a disregard for regulatory compliance. While performance is important, it should not come at the expense of fundamental security and privacy principles. A hybrid model that does not rigorously assess and mitigate the data exposure risks associated with client-side components would fail to meet the standards expected under data protection regulations, leading to potential breaches and non-compliance. A further incorrect approach would be to ignore the regulatory framework entirely and adopt the most technically convenient development pattern. This is a grave professional and ethical failure. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to understand the responsibilities associated with developing IT systems that handle user data. Such an approach would inevitably lead to non-compliance, exposing the organization and the IT professionals involved to legal penalties and reputational damage. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough understanding of the applicable regulatory framework from the outset of the project. Before selecting any development approach, IT professionals must assess how each option impacts data security, user privacy, and compliance with relevant laws and guidelines. This involves a risk-based assessment, prioritizing approaches that inherently offer stronger data protection. When in doubt, consulting with legal or compliance experts is crucial. The decision should always be guided by the principle of privacy by design and security by design, ensuring that compliance is integrated into the development process, not an afterthought. Question 2. Risk assessment procedures indicate that the current user account management process is susceptible to unauthorized access and potential data breaches due to a lack of stringent controls. To mitigate these risks, which of the following approaches to creating, modifying, and deleting user accounts would best align with industry best practices and regulatory compliance for an associate in information technology? 8. Role. Option A. Delete user accounts immediately upon receiving a request from any employee, without any verification of the requester's authority or a grace period for inactive accounts. Option B. Implement a documented, multi-stage approval process for all user account lifecycle actions, requiring initiation by authorized personnel, review and approval by a designated manager or security officer, and execution by IT administrators, with all actions logged and auditable. Option C. Focus solely on the speed of account modification requests, allowing IT administrators to make changes based on email requests without verifying the sender's identity or the legitimacy of the requested permission changes. Option D. Empower IT administrators to process all user account creation, modification, and deletion requests directly upon verbal instruction from any department head, without requiring written documentation or formal approval. The correct answer is B. Implement a documented, multi-stage approval process for all user account lifecycle actions, requiring initiation by authorized personnel, review and approval by a designated manager or security officer, and execution by IT administrators, with all actions logged and auditable. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT environments, balancing efficiency with robust security and compliance when managing user accounts. The professional challenge lies in ensuring that account lifecycle management processes are not only streamlined, but also adhere strictly to established regulatory frameworks and internal policies, preventing unauthorized access, data breaches, and audit failures. Careful judgment is required to identify and implement the most secure and compliant methods for creating, modifying, and deleting accounts. The correct approach involves implementing a documented, multi-stage approval process for all user account lifecycle actions, including creation, modification, and deletion. This process should mandate that requests are initiated by authorized personnel, reviewed and approved by a designated manager or security officer, and then executed by IT administrators. Furthermore, all actions must be logged and auditable. This approach is correct because it directly aligns with fundamental information security principles and regulatory requirements common in IT governance, such as those found in frameworks like NIST or ISO 27001, which emphasize the principle of least privilege, segregation of duties, and accountability. These principles are crucial for preventing unauthorized access and ensuring that only legitimate changes are made to user accounts. An incorrect approach that relies solely on IT administrators to process requests without a formal, documented approval workflow is professionally unacceptable. This failure bypasses essential control mechanisms, increasing the risk of unauthorized account creation, modification, or retention of dormant accounts, which can be exploited by malicious actors. It violates the principle of segregation of duties, where the same individual initiating and approving an action can lead to errors or fraudulent activity. Another incorrect approach, which involves deleting accounts immediately upon request without verification or a grace period for inactive accounts, also presents significant regulatory and ethical failures. This can lead to the accidental loss of critical data or access for legitimate users who may have been temporarily inactive. It also fails to account for potential legal or audit requirements that might necessitate retaining certain account information for a defined period. Finally, an approach that focuses only on speed of execution for account modifications, without a clear audit trail or verification of the requester's authority, is also professionally flawed. This can result in incorrect permissions being assigned, leading to privilege escalation or unauthorized access to sensitive information, thereby compromising data integrity and confidentiality. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes security and compliance. This involves understanding the relevant regulatory landscape, establishing clear policies and procedures for user account management, implementing robust access controls and audit mechanisms, and regularly reviewing and updating these processes to address evolving threats and compliance requirements. The focus should always be on a layered security approach that incorporates human oversight and automated controls. Question 3. Cost-benefit analysis shows that adopting a new, less expensive operating system for a critical business application could save significant licensing fees. However, this OS has a less mature security update mechanism and a history of slower patch deployment compared to the current, more expensive OS. What is the most prudent approach to take, considering the potential impact on data security and operational integrity? Option A. Implement the new OS but disable all non-essential features to reduce the attack surface, without a comprehensive evaluation of its inherent security strengths or weaknesses. Option B. Conduct a thorough risk assessment that evaluates the security vulnerabilities, patch management effectiveness, and compliance implications of the new OS, comparing them against the current OS and potential mitigation strategies before making a decision. Option C. Proceed with the adoption of the new OS immediately to realize the cost savings, assuming that any security risks can be addressed reactively as they arise. Option D. Prioritize user preference and ease of migration, selecting the OS that is most familiar to the end users, even if it presents some known security drawbacks. Correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough risk assessment that evaluates the security vulnerabilities, patch management effectiveness, and compliance implications of the new OS, comparing them against the current OS and potential mitigation strategies before making a decision. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the perceived benefits of a new technology with potential security and compliance risks, particularly within the context of an associate in information technology. 8. Role. The core difficulty lies in identifying and mitigating risks that might not be immediately obvious from a purely cost-benefit perspective, especially when dealing with operating system choices that have significant security implications. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the chosen OS not only meets functional and cost requirements, but also adheres to established security best practices and any relevant regulatory frameworks applicable to the AIT exam's jurisdiction. The correct approach involves a comprehensive risk assessment that goes beyond initial cost-benefit analysis. This approach prioritizes understanding the security posture of each operating system, its vulnerability to known threats, the availability and effectiveness of security patches and updates, and its compatibility with existing security infrastructure. It also considers the operational impact, such as the ease of management, user training requirements, and the potential for data breaches or unauthorized access. Regulatory compliance is paramount. Therefore, the chosen OS must align with any data protection, privacy, or industry-specific regulations that the AIT exam's jurisdiction mandates. This proactive and thorough evaluation ensures that the organization is not only cost-effective, but also secure and compliant, minimizing potential liabilities and reputational damage. An incorrect approach would be to solely focus on the initial cost savings or perceived ease of deployment without a thorough security evaluation. For instance, selecting an OS based purely on its lower licensing fees or the familiarity of a particular vendor without investigating its security track record or update frequency exposes the organization to significant risks. This failure to conduct a proper risk assessment can lead to regulatory noncompliance if the chosen OS cannot meet data protection standards or if its inherent vulnerabilities are exploited, resulting in data breaches. Another incorrect approach is to prioritize user preference or perceived user-friendliness over security and compliance. While user adoption is important, it should not come at the expense of robust security controls. An OS that is easy to use but lacks essential security features or is prone to malware can create significant security gaps, leading to potential data loss and regulatory penalties. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk management framework. This typically includes identifying potential threats and vulnerabilities associated with each OS option, assessing the likelihood and impact of these risks, evaluating existing controls, and determining appropriate mitigation strategies. This process should be iterative and involve input from relevant stakeholders, including IT security, legal, and operational teams. Prioritizing security and compliance from the outset, rather than as an afterthought, is crucial for making sound technology decisions that protect the organization's assets and reputation. Question 4. Market research demonstrates that a company's customer database contains valuable information that could significantly enhance targeted marketing campaigns. An IT professional is tasked with extracting and analyzing this data to identify customer segments for a new product launch. The professional notices that certain data fields, while present, are not optimally formatted for direct marketing analysis, and a quick alteration of these fields using data definition language, DDL, could streamline the extraction process and improve the perceived quality of the data for marketing reports. However, the professional also knows that the database serves critical operational functions beyond marketing. What is the most ethically and professionally responsible approach for the IT professional to take in this situation? Option A. Create a separate, temporary database and use DDL to restructure the data there for marketing analysis. Then discard the temporary database after the analysis is complete. Option B. Employ data definition language, DDL statements to directly alter the formatting of the relevant data fields within the production database to match marketing analysis requirements. Option C. Use DML statements to directly modify the data values in the relevant fields to improve their suitability for marketing analysis, without seeking further approval. Option D. Utilize data manipulation language, DML, statements to extract and analyze the data as it exists, and if formatting improvements are deemed essential for marketing, propose a formal change request for DDL modifications with proper justification and impact assessment. The correct answer is D. Utilize data manipulation language, DML, statements to extract and analyze the data as it exists, and if formatting improvements are deemed essential for marketing, propose a formal change request for DDL modifications with proper justification and impact assessment. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the potential for misuse of sensitive data and the ethical implications of altering data without proper authorization. The core conflict lies between a business objective, improving marketing campaigns, and the integrity of the data and the processes governing its use. Careful judgment is required to balance these competing interests while adhering to established protocols and ethical standards. The correct approach involves using DML statements to extract and analyze data for marketing insights, strictly adhering to the principle of data privacy and security. This approach is ethically sound and professionally responsible because it respects the intended use of the data and avoids unauthorized modification. It aligns with the general principles of data governance and responsible information management, which are foundational to the Associate in Information Technology (AIT) certification, emphasizing the ethical handling of data. By using DML for analysis and reporting, the IT professional ensures that the data remains accurate and unaltered for its primary purposes, while still deriving value for business operations. An incorrect approach would be to use DDL statements to alter the data structure or content directly to facilitate marketing analysis. This is ethically and professionally unacceptable because it violates the integrity of the database. DDL commands are designed for schema management, not for data manipulation for analytical purposes. Such an action could lead to data corruption, loss of historical accuracy, and compromise the reliability of the database for its intended operational functions. It also bypasses established change management procedures, which are crucial for maintaining system stability and auditability. Another incorrect approach would be to directly modify data values using DML statements without a clear, documented, and approved business requirement, and without following a change control process. While DML is used for data manipulation, altering data for a new, unapproved purpose, especially without proper validation or rollback plans, introduces significant risks. This could lead to inaccurate reporting, flawed decision-making based on compromised data, and potential breaches of data governance policies. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the established procedures designed to protect data quality and system integrity. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the business need, followed by an assessment of the available tools and their appropriate uses. The IT professional should first consult existing data governance policies and procedures. If the business need can be met through standard data extraction and reporting using DML, that is the preferred route. If data modification is truly necessary, it must be initiated through a formal change request process, including a thorough impact assessment, stakeholder approval, and a documented plan for implementation and testing. This structured approach ensures that all actions are transparent, justifiable, and minimize risk to data integrity and system operations. Question 5. Quality control measures reveal that a significant number of records in the newly populated data warehouse exhibit inconsistencies and missing values, impacting the accuracy of recent data mining reports. The IT team is under pressure to deliver these reports promptly for a critical business decision. Considering the associate in information technology. 8. Exams focus on regulatory frameworks and best practices. What is the most appropriate immediate course of action? Option A. Proceed with data mining using the existing data, but instruct the data analysts to manually identify and correct discrepancies during their analysis to expedite report generation. Option B. Focus data mining efforts on the subset of data that appears to be clean and consistent, while deferring the analysis of the problematic records to a later stage after the ETL process has been re-evaluated. Option C. Inform stakeholders that the data quality is compromised and suggest delaying the business decision until a full data cleansing and repopulation effort can be completed, prioritizing data integrity over immediate report delivery. Option D. Immediately halt all data mining activities, initiate a comprehensive review of the ETL processes, and implement rigorous data validation checks before proceeding with any further data loading or analysis. The correct answer is D. Immediately halt all data mining activities, initiate a comprehensive review of the ETL processes, and implement rigorous data validation checks before proceeding with any further data loading or analysis. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for actionable insights from data with the imperative to maintain data integrity and comply with established data governance principles. The pressure to deliver results quickly can tempt individuals to bypass crucial validation steps, potentially leading to flawed analysis and incorrect business decisions. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the data used for mining is accurate, complete, and consistent, thereby upholding the reliability of the insights generated. The correct approach involves a thorough validation of the extracted and transformed data before it is loaded into the data warehouse and subsequently used for data mining. This validation ensures that the data accurately reflects the source systems and has undergone the necessary transformations correctly. By adhering to this process, the organization upholds its commitment to data quality, which is a fundamental ethical and regulatory expectation in information management. This aligns with general principles of data governance that emphasize accuracy, completeness, and consistency as cornerstones of trustworthy data. For the associate in information technology. 8. Exam. This implies adherence to best practices in data lifecycle management, ensuring that data is fit for purpose at every stage. An incorrect approach that skips data validation after ETL processes introduces significant risks. This failure to verify the transformed data can lead to the propagation of errors into the data warehouse. Consequently, any data mining performed on this compromised data will yield unreliable or misleading insights. This directly violates the professional responsibility to ensure the integrity of information systems and the data they manage. Ethically, it is unacceptable to present findings derived from inaccurate data, as it can lead to poor strategic decisions and financial losses for the organization. Another incorrect approach that relies solely on the source system's perceived accuracy without post-ETL validation is also problematic. While source systems are the origin of data, the ETL process itself can introduce errors due to mapping issues, data type conversions, or transformation logic flaws. Neglecting to validate the transformed data means that any errors introduced during ETL will go undetected, leading to the same consequences as skipping validation altogether. This demonstrates a lack of diligence in the data management process. Finally, an incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of data loading over data quality checks, assuming that any discrepancies will be caught during the data mining phase, is fundamentally flawed. Data mining is intended to discover patterns and insights from reliable data, not to correct fundamental data quality issues. Attempting to rectify data integrity problems during data mining is inefficient, often impossible, and undermines the very purpose of the data warehouse and the mining process. It represents a failure to implement robust data governance and quality control mechanisms at the appropriate stages of the data pipeline, Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process that prioritizes data quality throughout the ETL and data warehousing lifecycle. This involves 1. Understanding the data requirements for analysis. 2. Designing robust ETL processes with built-in validation checks. 3. Implementing comprehensive data quality checks post-transformation and preloading. 4. Performing regular audits of the data warehouse. And 5. Ensuring that data mining activities are conducted on validated and trusted data. This systematic approach ensures that insights derived are accurate and that regulatory and ethical obligations regarding data integrity are met. Question 6. Stakeholder feedback indicates that while the implementation of a new intrusion prevention system, IPS, is crucial for enhancing network security, there are concerns that it might inadvertently disrupt the functionality of existing virtual private network (VPN) connections used by remote employees and external partners. Which of the following approaches best balances the need for robust network security with the operational continuity of VPN services? Option A. Deploy the IPS across the entire network immediately, with a plan to address any VPN connectivity issues as they are reported by users. Option B. Configure the IPS to block all traffic that exhibits characteristics of VPN tunneling as a precautionary measure to prevent potential security breaches. Option C. Implement the IPS in a phased manner, starting with a pilot group of users and non-critical network segments, conducting thorough testing of VPN functionality during each phase, and establishing clear rollback procedures before full deployment. Option D. Postpone the IPS implementation indefinitely until a completely separate and secure network infrastructure for VPN access can be established. The correct answer is A. Deploy the IPS across the entire network immediately, with a plan to address any VPN connectivity issues as they are reported by users. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between enhancing network security through advanced intrusion prevention systems, IPS, and ensuring that legitimate business operations, particularly those relying on remote access via virtual private networks, VPN, are not unduly disrupted. The need for robust security must be balanced against the operational requirements of the organization, requiring careful consideration of potential impacts. The correct approach involves a phased implementation and rigorous testing of the IPS, coupled with clear communication and rollback procedures. This strategy aligns with best practices in IT security and project management. Specifically, it addresses the regulatory expectation of implementing reasonable security measures to protect organizational data and systems, as often mandated by data protection laws and industry-specific regulations, e.g., GDPR if applicable, or general principles of due diligence in cybersecurity. The emphasis on testing and rollback mitigates the risk of operational disruption, demonstrating a commitment to business continuity, which is a key ethical consideration for IT professionals. An incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate, broad IPS deployment without adequate testing or stakeholder consultation fails to meet professional standards. This could lead to the blocking of legitimate VPN traffic, directly impacting remote employees and business partners, and potentially violating service-level agreements or internal operational policies. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of due diligence and consideration for the impact on users. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on IPS configuration without considering VPN compatibility, overlooks a critical interdependency. This can result in a security solution that inadvertently cripples essential communication channels, leading to significant operational downtime and potential data loss if users resort to insecure workarounds. This approach neglects the holistic view of network security and its integration with business processes. A further incorrect approach, delaying IPS implementation indefinitely due to fear of disruption, represents a failure to address known security vulnerabilities. This inaction exposes the organization to significant risks of cyber attacks, which could have severe financial, reputational, and legal consequences. It demonstrates a lack of proactive security management and a disregard for the organization's duty to protect its assets and data. The professional decision-making process for such situations should involve a risk assessment that balances security benefits against operational impacts. This includes engaging with stakeholders to understand their reliance on VPNs, conducting thorough testing in a controlled environment, developing a clear deployment plan with rollback capabilities, and establishing communication channels for feedback and issue resolution. Question 7. Quality control measures reveal that a financial services firm, operating under strict data privacy regulations, implicitly aligned with the principles tested in the Associate in Information Technology. 8. Exam requires a cloud solution that allows for maximum control over network security configurations, operating system patching schedules, and firewall rules to ensure compliance. Which cloud service model best supports these stringent requirements? Option A, Platform as a Service PaaS. Option B, Infrastructure as a Service IaaS. Option C, Hybrid Cloud Solution. Option D, Software as a Service SaaS. The correct answer is B, Infrastructure as a Service IaaS. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a nuanced understanding of cloud service models and their implications for data security and compliance within the specific regulatory landscape of the Associate in Information Technology. 8. Exam. The challenge lies in correctly identifying the service model that best aligns with the organization's need for granular control over security configurations, while adhering to the implicit compliance requirements of the AIT framework, which prioritizes secure and responsible IT practices. Careful judgment is required to avoid misclassifying the service model, which could lead to security vulnerabilities or noncompliance. The correct approach involves selecting the service model that offers the highest degree of control over the underlying infrastructure, including security settings, operating systems, and network configurations. This is Infrastructure as a Service IaaS. This approach is best professional practice because IaaS provides the foundational building blocks of cloud IT and allows organizations to manage and secure their own virtualized computing resources. Within the AIT context, this aligns with the principle of shared responsibility in cloud security, where the customer has significant control and therefore significant responsibility for securing their environment. This granular control is essential for meeting specific compliance mandates that may be implied or directly addressed by the AIT curriculum's focus on IT governance and security best practices. An incorrect approach would be to select Platform as a Service, PaaS. This is professionally unacceptable because PaaS abstracts away much of the underlying infrastructure management, including operating systems and middleware. It offers more control than SaaS. It provides less control than IaaS over the fundamental security configurations of the infrastructure, potentially leaving gaps that could violate compliance requirements or security best practices emphasized in the AIT framework. Another incorrect approach would be to select Software as a Service, SaaS. This is professionally unacceptable, as SaaS offers the least control over the underlying infrastructure and security settings. The cloud provider manages almost all aspects of the application and its underlying infrastructure, leaving the customer with minimal ability to implement specific security controls or ensure compliance with granular requirements. This lack of control is a significant risk in environments where detailed security configurations are mandated or implied by the AIT exam's focus on robust IT security. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve 1. Clearly defining the organization's security and compliance requirements. 2. Understanding the distinct responsibilities and control levels offered by each cloud service model, IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. 3. Mapping these requirements to the capabilities of each service model, prioritizing the model that offers the necessary control for security and compliance. 4. Considering the shared responsibility model inherent in cloud computing and how it aligns with the organization's internal capabilities and the implicit expectations of the AIT framework regarding IT governance and security. Question 8. The efficiency study reveals that migrating a significant portion of the organization's IT infrastructure to the cloud could lead to substantial cost savings and improved scalability. However, the organization handles highly sensitive customer data and is subject to strict data protection regulations within the AIT exam's jurisdiction. The IT department needs to recommend a cloud deployment model that maximizes these efficiency benefits while ensuring absolute compliance with all relevant laws and guidelines. Option A. Maintain the current on-premises private cloud infrastructure and forego any cloud migration to ensure maximum data control. Option B. Migrate all IT infrastructure and data exclusively to a public cloud environment to achieve the greatest cost savings and scalability. Option C. Implement a hybrid cloud strategy, utilizing public cloud for general applications and non-sensitive data, while keeping sensitive customer data and critical business systems on a private cloud. Option D. Utilize a multi-cloud strategy, distributing data and applications across multiple public cloud providers without a clear segregation strategy for sensitive data. The correct answer is C. Implement a hybrid cloud strategy, utilizing public cloud for general applications and non-sensitive data, while keeping sensitive customer data and critical business systems on a private cloud. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing operational efficiency gains with the stringent data protection and compliance requirements mandated by the Associate in Information Technology. 8. Exams regulatory framework. The decision maker must navigate the inherent trade-offs between cost-effectiveness, scalability, and the need to maintain control over sensitive information, all within the bounds of applicable regulations. Careful judgment is required to select a cloud deployment model that not only meets performance objectives, but also upholds legal and ethical obligations. The correct approach involves selecting a hybrid cloud model. This approach is best professional practice because it allows the organization to leverage the scalability and cost efficiency of public cloud services for non-sensitive data and less critical applications, while retaining sensitive customer data and core business functions on a private cloud infrastructure. This segregation directly addresses regulatory requirements for data sovereignty, privacy, and security, ensuring that compliance is maintained for the most critical assets. The hybrid model offers a controlled and compliant path to modernization and efficiency. An incorrect approach would be to exclusively adopt a public cloud model for all operations. This would represent a significant regulatory and ethical failure. While offering maximum cost savings and scalability, it would likely violate regulations concerning data residency, privacy, and the secure handling of sensitive information, as public cloud environments may not offer the granular control or specific compliance certifications required by the AIT exam's jurisdiction for all types of data. Another incorrect approach would be to maintain an entirely on-premises private cloud without exploring any cloud options. This fails to capitalize on potential efficiency gains identified by the study and could lead to missed opportunities for innovation and cost optimization, potentially impacting the organization's competitiveness. While compliant, it may not be the most responsible use of resources if more efficient and equally compliant alternatives exist. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a thorough risk assessment of each cloud deployment model against the organization's specific data types, regulatory obligations, and business objectives. This includes consulting with legal and compliance teams to ensure alignment with the AIT exam's jurisdiction. A phased implementation strategy, starting with less sensitive workloads, can also mitigate risks and allow for continuous evaluation of compliance and performance. Question 9. Compliance review shows that a financial services firm is exploring the use of artificial intelligence to optimize its customer onboarding process. The firm is considering two primary approaches, one involving a traditional machine learning model trained on historical data to predict the likelihood of successful onboarding and identify potential fraud, and another exploring a complex deep learning architecture to analyze unstructured customer data for similar predictive insights. Which approach, when implemented with a focus on process optimization, best aligns with regulatory expectations for transparency and auditability in IT systems? Option A. Prioritizing the rapid deployment of the AI solution to achieve immediate cost savings, deferring detailed validation and monitoring to a later stage. Option B. Utilizing a deep learning model that requires significant data processing and then directly integrating its output without further analysis of its internal workings. Option C. Implementing a machine learning model with a clear feature importance analysis and a robust validation framework, coupled with ongoing performance monitoring. Option D. Deploying a deep learning model that achieves high predictive accuracy but offers limited interpretability of its decision-making process. Correct answer is C. Implementing a machine learning model with a clear feature importance analysis and a robust validation framework, coupled with ongoing performance monitoring. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexities of implementing AI for process optimization within a regulated environment. The challenge lies in balancing the potential benefits of AI-driven efficiency with the stringent requirements for data integrity, model explainability, and adherence to established IT governance frameworks. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the chosen AI approach not only enhances operational processes, but also remains compliant with all applicable regulations and ethical considerations. The correct approach involves a phased implementation that prioritizes robust validation and ongoing monitoring of the machine learning model. This strategy ensures that the AI system's outputs are reliable, auditable, and do not introduce unintended biases or errors that could violate regulatory mandates concerning data accuracy and operational integrity. Specifically, this approach aligns with principles of responsible AI development and deployment, emphasizing transparency and accountability in automated decision-making processes. Regulatory frameworks often require demonstrable evidence of system reliability and fairness, which this phased, validated approach directly addresses. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on rapid deployment without thorough validation risks significant regulatory noncompliance. This could lead to the AI system making decisions based on flawed data or biased algorithms, potentially resulting in inaccurate reporting, operational disruption, or breaches of data privacy regulations. Such an approach fails to establish the necessary audit trails and explainability required by many IT governance standards, making it impossible to demonstrate due diligence or to rectify errors effectively. Another incorrect approach that relies on a black box deep learning model without any mechanism for understanding its decision-making process is also professionally unacceptable. While deep learning can achieve high accuracy, its lack of inherent explainability poses a substantial risk in regulated environments. If the AI's recommendations or actions cannot be understood or justified, it becomes impossible to meet regulatory requirements for transparency, accountability, and the ability to investigate and correct any adverse outcomes. This opacity undermines trust and makes the organization vulnerable to penalties for noncompliance with audit and governance standards. A further incorrect approach that neglects the continuous monitoring and retraining of the AI model after deployment is equally problematic. Machine learning models are susceptible to concept drift, where the underlying data patterns change over time, rendering the model's predictions less accurate or even erroneous. Failing to monitor and update the model means the AI's performance will degrade, potentially leading to operational inefficiencies and regulatory breaches as the system operates on outdated assumptions. This demonstrates a lack of ongoing responsibility for the AI system's lifecycle. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of regulatory requirements and ethical considerations. This should be followed by a thorough assessment of the AI technique's suitability for the specific optimization task, with a strong emphasis on explainability and auditability. A phased implementation, rigorous testing, validation, and continuous monitoring plan are crucial. The decision should always prioritize compliance, risk mitigation, and ethical deployment over speed or perceived immediate gains. Question 10. Stakeholder feedback indicates a growing demand for enhanced collaboration capabilities across the IT department, with specific requests for more efficient instant messaging, secure video conferencing, and streamlined email communication. Considering the Associate in Information Technology, 8, exam's regulatory framework, which approach best balances user needs with compliance and security best practices. Option A. Mandate the adoption of a single, all-in-one collaboration suite without a detailed review of its security features or its alignment with existing data retention policies. Option B. Implement a comprehensive policy that defines acceptable use, data handling, security requirements, and retention for email, instant messaging, and video conferencing, ensuring all tools adhere to these guidelines. Option C. Focus on deploying a new, feature-rich instant messaging platform to address immediate communication bottlenecks, deferring policy development for email and video conferencing to a later date. Option D. Prioritize upgrading the video conferencing system to support advanced features, assuming existing email security measures are sufficient for all collaborative communications. The correct answer is B. Implement a comprehensive policy that defines acceptable use, data handling, security requirements, and retention for email, instant messaging, and video conferencing, ensuring all tools adhere to these guidelines. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT environments where the rapid adoption of collaboration tools can outpace the development of clear usage policies and security protocols. The professional challenge lies in balancing the benefits of enhanced communication and productivity offered by these tools against the inherent risks of data leakage, unauthorized access, and compliance violations. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the chosen approach not only facilitates collaboration, but also upholds the integrity and security of organizational data, adhering to relevant regulatory frameworks. The correct approach involves establishing a comprehensive policy that governs the use of all collaboration tools, including email, instant messaging, and video conferencing. This policy should clearly define acceptable use, data handling procedures, security requirements, such as strong authentication and encryption, retention schedules, and incident response protocols. This approach is correct because it proactively addresses potential risks by embedding security and compliance into the operational framework of these tools. It aligns with best practices for information governance and data protection, ensuring that the organization remains compliant with relevant regulations by providing clear guidelines and accountability for all users. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on enabling instant messaging without considering email or video conferencing creates an incomplete and potentially insecure communication ecosystem. This failure to adopt a holistic policy risks inconsistent security measures and compliance gaps across different communication channels, may lead to sensitive information being shared via less secure channels or being retained improperly, violating data protection principles. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes video conferencing features over established email security protocols overlooks the fact that email remains a primary vector for sensitive data exchange and phishing attacks. Without integrating email security into the overall collaboration strategy, the organization remains vulnerable to data breaches and compliance issues related to email content and retention. Finally, an approach that mandates the use of a single, unvetted collaboration tool without considering the diverse needs of stakeholders or the security implications of that specific tool is also professionally unacceptable. This can lead to user frustration, reduced productivity, and significant security vulnerabilities if the chosen tool lacks adequate security features or does not meet compliance requirements for data handling and privacy. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough risk assessment of all proposed and existing collaboration tools. This should be followed by the development of a unified policy that addresses security, compliance, and acceptable use across all platforms. Stakeholder consultation is crucial to ensure the policy is practical and meets operational needs while maintaining a strong security posture. Regular review and updates to the policy are essential to adapt to evolving technologies and regulatory landscapes. Question 11. The evaluation methodology shows that an associate in information technology 8 candidate is tasked with optimizing a critical bash script that is experiencing significant performance degradation during peak operational hours. The script is responsible for processing large volumes of log data. Which of the following approaches best demonstrates an understanding of process optimization within the scope of IT best practices and the AIT exam's focus? Option A. Document the current performance issues and recommend a future project to investigate optimization without making immediate changes to the script. Option B. Analyze the script's execution profile to identify specific commands or sections consuming the most resources, and then refactor those sections using more efficient bash constructs or utilities. Option C. Rewrite the entire bash script in Python, as Python is generally considered a more performant language for data processing tasks. Option D. Increase the server's RAM and CPU allocation to alleviate the performance bottleneck, assuming the script itself is already reasonably optimized. The correct answer is B. Analyze the script's execution profile to identify specific commands or sections consuming the most resources, and then refactor those sections using more efficient bash constructs or utilities. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows that the associate in information technology 8 exam requires a deep understanding of process optimization in shell scripting, specifically within the context of Bash and PowerShell, while adhering strictly to the specified regulatory framework. This scenario is professionally challenging because optimizing script performance directly impacts system resource utilization, operational efficiency, and potentially security. Inaccurate optimization can lead to performance degradation, increased costs, and even security vulnerabilities if not handled with care and within established guidelines. The correct approach involves analyzing script execution flow and identifying bottlenecks through profiling tools, then refactoring the script to use more efficient commands, reduce redundant operations, and leverage built-in functions where appropriate. This aligns with the AIT exam's focus on practical, efficient IT solutions. Regulatory and ethical justification stems from the implicit requirement within IT professional standards to deliver services that are both effective and resource-conscious. While the AIT exam may not specify explicit regulations for shell scripting optimization, the underlying principles of responsible IT practice, efficiency, and avoiding unnecessary resource consumption are universally expected and are the basis for evaluating IT professionals. This approach demonstrates a commitment to best practices in system administration and development. An incorrect approach that involves simply adding more memory or CPU resources to the system without addressing the script's inefficiencies is professionally unacceptable. This is because it fails to resolve the root cause of the performance issue, leading to a wasteful expenditure of resources and potentially masking underlying problems that could escalate. It demonstrates a lack of analytical skill and a disregard for efficient resource management, which is a core competency for IT professionals. Another incorrect approach, such as rewriting the script entirely in a different, more complex language without a clear performance benefit or necessity, is also professionally unsound. This introduces unnecessary complexity, increases maintenance overhead, and may not even yield the desired optimization. It deviates from the principle of using the most appropriate tool for the job and can be seen as an inefficient use of development time and resources. A third incorrect approach, which is to ignore the performance issue altogether and assume it will resolve itself, is ethically and professionally negligent. This demonstrates a failure to uphold responsibilities for system performance and stability, potentially leading to significant operational disruptions and user dissatisfaction. It shows a lack of proactive problem solving and a disregard for the impact on the organization's operations. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. First, clearly define the performance problem and its impact. Second, gather data through profiling and logging to understand the script's behavior. Third, identify specific areas for optimization based on this data. Fourth, implement changes incrementally and test thoroughly to ensure improvements and avoid regressions. Finally, document the changes and their impact. This methodical approach ensures that optimizations are effective, efficient, and aligned with professional standards. Question 12. System analysis indicates a critical application server is experiencing intermittent performance degradation, impacting user access and transaction processing. The IT support team is under pressure to restore full functionality immediately. Which of the following troubleshooting approaches best balances the need for rapid resolution with the imperative to manage potential risks and adhere to professional IT practices? Option A. Proceed with a full system reboot of the server without further investigation, as this has resolved similar issues in the past. Option B. Consult online forums for the quickest reported fix and apply it directly to the production server to restore service. Option C. Immediately initiate a full system backup and then attempt a controlled restart of the application service, documenting all observed symptoms and actions taken. Option D. Roll back the server to the last known stable configuration without documenting the current state or attempting to diagnose the root cause. The correct answer is C. Immediately initiate a full system backup and then attempt a controlled restart of the application service, documenting all observed symptoms and actions taken. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need to restore service with the imperative to maintain data integrity and comply with established IT governance frameworks. The pressure to resolve the issue quickly can lead to hasty decisions that bypass proper diagnostic steps, potentially exacerbating the problem or introducing new risks. Careful judgment is required to ensure that troubleshooting efforts are systematic, documented, and adhere to organizational policies and relevant regulatory guidelines. The correct approach involves a structured risk assessment to identify potential impacts and prioritize mitigation strategies. This method ensures that all potential consequences of a technical issue and its resolution are considered. By systematically evaluating the likelihood and impact of various risks, IT professionals can make informed decisions about the most appropriate course of action. This aligns with best practices in IT service management and risk management, which are often implicitly or explicitly mandated by regulatory frameworks governing data handling and system availability. For example, frameworks like ITIL, Information Technology Infrastructure Library, which is widely adopted and often referenced in IT certifications, emphasizes a structured approach to incident management and problem resolution that includes risk assessment. While specific regulations may vary by jurisdiction, the underlying principle of responsible risk management in IT operations is a universal ethical and professional standard. An incorrect approach that bypasses initial diagnostic steps and immediately attempts a system reboot without understanding the root cause is professionally unacceptable. This action fails to adequately assess the risk of data corruption or loss that could occur during an uncontrolled shutdown or restart. It also violates the principle of thorough investigation, which is fundamental to effective troubleshooting and incident resolution. Such an approach could lead to a breach of data protection regulations if sensitive information is compromised due to the hasty action. Another incorrect approach, which is to immediately roll back to the last known stable configuration without documenting the current state or attempting to diagnose the issue, also presents significant professional and ethical failures. It bypasses the opportunity to learn from the incident and identify underlying systemic problems. Furthermore, if the rollback process is not carefully managed, it could result in the loss of critical recent data or configurations, leading to operational disruptions and potential noncompliance with data retention policies. This approach neglects the principle of continuous improvement and can lead to recurring issues. A third incorrect approach, which is to consult external forums for a quick fix without verifying the source or understanding its implications for the specific system environment, is also professionally unsound. This introduces an unknown variable into the troubleshooting process and carries a high risk of introducing malware, incompatible software, or incorrect configurations. Such actions could lead to security breaches or further system instability, potentially violating data security and privacy regulations. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to adhere to established change management procedures. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear incident response plan that includes steps for initial assessment, risk evaluation, diagnostic procedures, resolution, and post-incident review. When faced with a technical issue, IT professionals should first gather information, assess the impact, and then conduct a risk assessment to understand the potential consequences of different resolution strategies. This systematic approach, grounded in principles of good IT governance and risk management, ensures that decisions are not only effective in resolving the immediate problem, but also responsible in protecting data, maintaining system integrity, and complying with all applicable professional standards and regulations. Question 13. Cost-benefit analysis shows that a proposed cloud migration offers significant immediate cost savings, but the project team is considering skipping detailed impact assessments on existing service-level agreements, SLAs, and regulatory compliance checks to expedite the migration. Which approach best aligns with ITIL best practices and regulatory expectations for this scenario? Option A. Proceed with the migration as planned, prioritizing the cost savings and addressing any compliance or SLA issues reactively if they arise post-migration. Option B. Focus solely on the technical aspects of the migration, assuming that business and regulatory concerns will be managed by other departments without direct IT involvement in the assessment phase. Option C. Delegate the responsibility for assessing SLA and regulatory impacts to the cloud vendor, assuming their services are inherently compliant. Option D. Conduct a thorough impact assessment of the proposed cloud migration on all existing SLAs and regulatory compliance requirements, and integrate findings into the migration plan before proceeding. The correct answer is A. Proceed with the migration as planned, prioritizing the cost savings and addressing any compliance or SLA issues reactively if they arise post-migration. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing immediate cost savings with long-term service quality and compliance, a common tension in IT service management. The ITIL framework emphasizes a holistic approach to service delivery, and decisions must consider the entire service lifecycle. Careful judgment is required to ensure that cost-cutting measures do not compromise the integrity or availability of IT services, which could lead to regulatory breaches and reputational damage. The correct approach involves a comprehensive review of the proposed changes against the ITIL framework's core principles, particularly service strategy and service design. This approach is correct because it prioritizes understanding the business impact and potential risks before implementation. It aligns with the ITIL principle of focus on value by ensuring that any changes contribute to business objectives and customer satisfaction. Furthermore, it adheres to the spirit of continual service improvement by evaluating the proposed change not just on cost, but on its overall effectiveness and sustainability. This proactive assessment helps prevent unintended consequences that could violate regulatory requirements related to data security, service availability, or disaster recovery, which are paramount in maintaining trust and operational continuity. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the immediate cost reduction without considering the impact on service design and transition would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from neglecting the ITIL emphasis on designing services that meet business needs and are robust enough for operation. Such an approach risks introducing vulnerabilities or performance degradation, potentially leading to service disruptions that could violate service-level agreements, SLAs, and regulatory obligations for service availability. Another incorrect approach that bypasses proper change management procedures within service transition would also be a significant failure. This bypass would ignore the structured processes designed to ensure that new or changed services are released into production safely and effectively. The regulatory and ethical failure here lies in circumventing established controls, increasing the likelihood of errors, security incidents, or non-compliance with audit trails and documentation requirements. A third incorrect approach that fails to involve stakeholders from service operation in the evaluation would be detrimental. Service operation is on the front lines of delivering services and understanding their day-to-day performance and user impact. Excluding them means critical operational insights and potential risks related to user experience, incident management, and problem resolution are overlooked. This can lead to the implementation of changes that, while cost-effective on paper, create significant operational burdens or negatively impact end users, potentially leading to breaches of user privacy or data protection regulations. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured evaluation using the ITIL lifecycle stages. Professionals should first understand the business requirements and strategic goals, service strategy. Then, they must assess how proposed changes align with service design principles, considering capacity, availability, security, and continuity service design. Next, the impact on the transition process, including testing, deployment, and release management, must be evaluated service transition. Finally, the implications for ongoing service operation and the ability to meet SLAs and user expectations must be thoroughly considered service operation, with a view towards continuous improvement, continual service improvement. This integrated approach ensures that decisions are well-rounded, risk-aware, and aligned with both business objectives and regulatory compliance. Question 14. The risk matrix shows a high likelihood of a ransomware attack targeting the organization's primary customer database. Following a suspected incident, the system is inaccessible and a ransom note is displayed. The immediate business impact is severe, with customer service operations halted. The IT team is under immense pressure to restore access as quickly as possible. Which of the following approaches best aligns with regulatory compliance and professional security best practices for handling this situation? Option A. Attempt to manually remove the ransomware from the affected systems without involving external specialists or a formal incident response plan, prioritizing speed to restore service. Option B. Immediately initiate a full system restore from the most recent backup, assuming it is unaffected, and then investigate the cause of the ransomware. Option C. Pay the ransom to the attackers to expedite the decryption and restoration of the customer database. Option D. Isolate the affected systems, engage cybersecurity incident response specialists, and follow a documented incident response plan that includes thorough analysis, containment, eradication, and secure restoration. The correct answer is B. Immediately initiate a full system restore from the most recent backup, assuming it is unaffected, and then investigate the cause of the ransomware. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing immediate operational needs with long-term security posture and regulatory compliance. The IT professional must make a judgment call that could impact data integrity, system availability, and potentially expose the organization to significant financial and reputational damage if mishandled. The pressure to restore service quickly can lead to shortcuts that bypass essential security protocols, creating a direct conflict between business continuity and security best practices. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented process of incident response, prioritizing containment and eradication of the threat before full restoration. This aligns with the principles of robust information security management, which are often mandated by regulatory frameworks governing data protection and cybersecurity. Specifically, it emphasizes the importance of understanding the scope of the breach, preventing further compromise, and ensuring that the system is clean before bringing it back online. This methodical approach minimizes the risk of reinfection or the propagation of malware, thereby protecting sensitive data and maintaining system integrity, which are core tenets of responsible IT governance and compliance. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on rapid restoration without thorough investigation and remediation would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for established incident response protocols, which are designed to prevent recurrence and limit damage. Such an approach could lead to a violation of data protection regulations by failing to adequately secure personal or sensitive information, potentially resulting in regulatory fines and legal liabilities. Furthermore, it demonstrates a lack of due diligence in safeguarding organizational assets, which is an ethical failing for any IT professional. Another incorrect approach, which involves immediately reverting to a previous backup without verifying its integrity or understanding the root cause of the compromise, is also problematic. While backups are crucial for recovery, blindly restoring without analysis can reintroduce malware or corrupted data if the backup itself was compromised, or if the vulnerability that allowed the initial infection remains unaddressed. This bypasses the critical step of identifying and mitigating the threat vector, leaving the organization vulnerable to future attacks and potentially violating compliance requirements that mandate a thorough understanding and remediation of security incidents. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve adhering to a documented incident response plan. This plan should guide the IT professional through stages of identification, containment, eradication, recovery, and lessons learned. It is crucial to involve relevant stakeholders, including management and legal counsel, to ensure that decisions are aligned with business objectives and regulatory obligations. Prioritizing a secure and stable recovery over speed, even under pressure, is paramount to maintaining trust, protecting data, and ensuring long-term operational resilience. Question 15. The evaluation methodology shows that a proposed algorithm optimization for a customer relationship management system is significantly slower than desired. To address this, one proposed solution is to directly analyze raw user interaction logs to infer patterns, and then modify the algorithm based on these inferences. Another approach suggests optimizing data retrieval speed without verifying the accuracy of the retrieved data. Third option is to implement a pre-built, proprietary optimization module without understanding its internal workings. What is the most appropriate step-by-step solution development approach for this scenario? Option A. Implement a pre-built, proprietary optimization module without understanding its internal workings. Option B. Systematically analyze the existing algorithm's logic and data flow to identify specific areas for algorithmic improvement, ensuring all modifications adhere to data privacy and integrity standards. Option C. Optimize data retrieval speed without verifying the accuracy of the retrieved data. Option D. Directly analyze raw user interaction logs to infer patterns and modify the algorithm based on these inferences. The correct answer is B. Systematically analyze the existing algorithm's logic and data flow to identify specific areas for algorithmic improvement, ensuring all modifications adhere to data privacy and integrity standards. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for efficient process optimization with the fundamental principles of data integrity and user privacy, which are paramount in information technology. The IT team is tasked with improving a system's performance, but the proposed method involves a shortcut that could compromise sensitive information. Careful judgment is required to ensure that optimization efforts do not inadvertently lead to regulatory noncompliance or ethical breaches. The correct approach involves developing a step-by-step solution that systematically identifies bottlenecks and implements improvements without compromising data security or privacy. This approach prioritizes a thorough understanding of the existing process, including its data handling mechanisms, and then designs modifications that adhere to established IT best practices and relevant regulations. Specifically, this would involve analyzing the algorithm's logic, identifying areas for algorithmic efficiency improvements, and testing these changes in a controlled environment before deployment. This method ensures that the optimization is robust, secure, and compliant with data protection principles, which are often enshrined in IT governance frameworks and potentially specific regulatory acts depending on the jurisdiction. Though for this exam, we focus on general IT principles and ethical conduct. An incorrect approach that involves directly manipulating raw data logs to infer user behavior for optimization purposes is ethically and potentially legally problematic. This method bypasses standard data anonymization or aggregation techniques, exposing sensitive user information. Such an approach fails to uphold the principle of data minimization and could violate user privacy expectations and data protection regulations by processing personally identifiable information without explicit consent or a clear legal basis. Another incorrect approach, which focuses solely on optimizing the speed of data retrieval without considering the accuracy or integrity of the data being retrieved, is also flawed. Speed is a factor in process optimization. It should not come at the expense of data correctness. This could lead to flawed decision-making based on inaccurate information, undermining the very purpose of the optimization. This approach neglects the fundamental IT principle of data integrity. A third incorrect approach, which involves implementing a black box optimization solution without understanding its underlying logic or potential side effects, is professionally irresponsible. This lack of transparency makes it impossible to verify compliance, troubleshoot issues, or ensure that the optimization aligns with ethical guidelines and organizational policies. It represents a failure in due diligence and risk management. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a risk-based assessment. First, clearly define the optimization goals. Second, identify potential methods to achieve these goals, considering both efficiency and ethical/regulatory implications. Third, evaluate each method against established IT principles, privacy policies, and any applicable regulatory requirements. Fourth, select the method that best balances performance gains with the protection of data integrity and user privacy. Finally, document the chosen approach and its justification, and ensure thorough testing and validation. Question 16. What factors determine the optimal selection of a central processing unit, CPU, for a new server deployment, considering its intended use for virtualized environments and database operations? Option A, the total number of processing cores available without considering their individual speed or the efficiency of the cache. Option B, the maximum clock speed achievable by the CPU, irrespective of its core count or cache configuration. Option C, the largest amount of L3 cache memory the CPU offers, assuming this is the sole determinant of processing efficiency. Option D, the interplay between the CPU's clock speed, the number of physical cores, and the size and hierarchy of its cache memory, in conjunction with the specific demands of virtualization and database workloads. The correct answer is D. The interplay between the CPU's clock speed, the number of physical cores, and the size and hierarchy of its cache memory, in conjunction with the specific demands of virtualization and database workloads. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because selecting the appropriate CPU for a given IT system requires balancing performance needs with budgetary constraints and future scalability, all while adhering to the principles of efficient resource allocation and system longevity. A misjudgment can lead to underperforming systems, wasted investment, or the need for premature upgrades, impacting project timelines and client satisfaction. Careful judgment is required to align technical specifications with practical application requirements. The correct approach focuses on understanding the workload demands and the specific architectural features of the CPU that directly impact performance for those demands. This involves considering how the CPU's clock speed, number of cores, and cache memory size and hierarchy will interact with the software applications and operating system. For instance, a CPU with a higher clock speed might be beneficial for single-threaded applications, while a CPU with more cores would be advantageous for heavily multi-threaded workloads. The cache memory's role in reducing latency by storing frequently accessed data is also critical. This approach aligns with the professional responsibility to ensure IT systems are fit for purpose, cost-effective, and capable of meeting current and anticipated operational needs, a core tenet of responsible IT system design and implementation. An incorrect approach that prioritizes only clock speed overlooks the significant impact of multi-core processing for modern multitasking environments and parallel processing. This can lead to a system that struggles with concurrent operations, even with a high clock speed, failing to meet the demands of contemporary software. Another incorrect approach that solely considers the number of cores without regard to clock speed or cache can result in a CPU that has many processing units, but each operates slowly, leading to overall sluggishness in applications that benefit from faster individual core performance. An approach that exclusively focuses on cache memory size without considering clock speed and core count would be similarly flawed, as cache is only one component of overall CPU performance, and its benefits are maximized when paired with adequate processing power and parallelism. These approaches fail to adopt a holistic view of CPU performance and can lead to suboptimal system configurations. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough analysis of the intended use case and workload. This involves identifying the types of applications that will run, their processing requirements, e.g., single-threaded vs, multi-threaded, and the expected data throughput. Subsequently, they should research CPU specifications, evaluating how clock speed, core count, and cache memory, L1, L2, L3, contribute to performance in the context of those identified workloads. Benchmarking data for similar applications and CPUs can be invaluable. Finally, this technical assessment must be weighed against project budget, power consumption considerations, and future scalability needs to arrive at the most balanced and effective CPU selection. Question 17. Examination of the data shows a significant increase in unauthorized access attempts to a sensitive customer database, with evidence suggesting a successful intrusion. The IT security team has identified a potential vulnerability that may have been exploited. The organization handles personal data of individuals within the United Kingdom. What is the most appropriate immediate course of action for the Associate in Information Technology, AIT, to take, considering the regulatory framework governing data protection in the UK? Option A. Focus solely on restoring system integrity and data backups, assuming that if the data is recovered, no further action is required. Option B. Immediately initiate a full system lockdown and begin forensic analysis to determine the extent of the breach and identify the root cause, while preparing a draft notification for the Information Commissioner's Office (ICO) and affected individuals. Option C. Publicly announce the potential breach on social media to inform customers and solicit advice from the cybersecurity community. Option D. Attempt to patch the vulnerability and monitor the system for further activity, delaying any formal notification until the full impact is definitively understood, which could take several days. The correct answer is B. Immediately initiate a full system lockdown and begin forensic analysis to determine the extent of the breach and identify the root cause, while preparing a draft notification for the Information Commissioner's Office (ICO) and affected individuals. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the immediate need to respond to a potential data breach while balancing the requirements of data protection regulations and the need for swift incident response. The IT professional must make critical decisions under pressure, understanding that a misstep could lead to regulatory penalties, reputational damage, and loss of trust. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the response is both effective in mitigating harm and compliant with legal obligations. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented process of containment, eradication, and recovery, coupled with timely notification to relevant authorities and affected individuals as mandated by applicable regulations. This approach prioritizes minimizing further damage, understanding the scope of the incident, and fulfilling legal and ethical obligations to protect personal data. Specifically, adhering to the principles of data minimization, purpose limitation, and accountability, as well as the breach notification requirements, is paramount. An incorrect approach that involves immediate public disclosure without proper investigation risks spreading misinformation, potentially alerting attackers to the ongoing response, and failing to provide accurate and complete information to affected parties and regulators. This violates the principle of responsible disclosure and can exacerbate the situation. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to conceal the breach or delaying notification, directly contravenes data protection laws, which typically mandate prompt reporting of breaches that pose a risk to individuals' rights and freedoms. This demonstrates a failure to uphold ethical responsibilities and regulatory compliance, leading to severe penalties. A third incorrect approach, focusing solely on technical remediation without considering the legal and ethical implications of data handling and notification, overlooks the broader responsibilities of an IT professional in a data breach scenario. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with immediate incident assessment and containment, followed by a thorough investigation to understand the nature and scope of the breach. This investigation should inform the notification strategy, ensuring that all legally required parties are informed within the stipulated timeframes. Documentation of all actions taken is crucial for demonstrating compliance and for post-incident analysis. Prioritizing regulatory compliance and ethical consideration throughout the incident response lifecycle is essential for professional conduct. Question 18. When evaluating the resolution of a critical service disruption impacting customer transactions, which of the following approaches best aligns with regulatory expectations for incident management and service continuity? Option A. Implement a temporary workaround to restore basic functionality, deferring a full investigation and permanent fix to a later, less critical period. Option B. Immediately revert to the last known good configuration without fully diagnosing the root cause, prioritizing speed of service restoration above all else. Option C. Follow the established incident management protocol. Contain the incident, diagnose the root cause, implement a verified resolution, document all steps, and conduct a post-incident review. Option D. Restore the service from the most recent backup, without assessing the integrity of the backup or the potential data loss incurred since the last backup. The correct answer is B. Immediately revert to the last known good configuration without fully diagnosing the root cause, prioritizing speed of service restoration above all else. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need to restore service with the long-term implications of security and data integrity, all within a defined regulatory framework. The pressure to resolve a service disruption quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise compliance and security. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the resolution process adheres to established protocols and regulatory mandates. The correct approach involves a structured incident response that prioritizes immediate containment and then moves to systematic diagnosis and resolution, followed by thorough documentation and post-incident review. This aligns with the principles of good IT governance and regulatory compliance, which emphasize accountability, transparency, and continuous improvement. Specifically, adhering to established incident management procedures ensures that all necessary steps are taken to minimize impact, prevent recurrence, and meet any reporting obligations. The focus on root cause analysis and preventative measures is crucial for demonstrating due diligence and maintaining service reliability, which are often implicit or explicit requirements in IT service delivery standards. An incorrect approach that bypasses standard diagnostic procedures to implement a quick fix fails to address the underlying cause of the disruption. This can lead to recurring incidents, increased downtime, and potential data corruption or security breaches, all of which can have significant regulatory and financial consequences. Such an approach demonstrates a lack of adherence to established IT service management best practices and potentially violates service-level agreements, SLAs, and regulatory requirements for service availability and data protection. Another incorrect approach that involves restoring from a backup without verifying its integrity or understanding the cause of the original data corruption risks reintroducing the problem or losing critical data. This highlights a failure to follow proper data management and disaster recovery protocols, which are often subject to regulatory oversight. It also demonstrates a lack of thoroughness in the incident resolution process, potentially leading to further service degradation and noncompliance with data integrity standards. A third incorrect approach that focuses solely on restoring the affected service without documenting the incident, the resolution steps, or the root cause is professionally unacceptable. This omission prevents effective post-incident analysis, hinders knowledge sharing, and makes it impossible to demonstrate compliance with audit requirements or to implement effective preventative measures. Regulatory frameworks often mandate detailed record-keeping for incidents, especially those impacting critical services or sensitive data. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the organization's incident management policy and relevant regulatory requirements. This includes 1. Immediate assessment of the incident's impact and severity. 2. Activation of the appropriate incident response team. 3. Adherence to the defined incident management lifecycle: detection, diagnosis, resolution, closure. 4. Thorough documentation at each stage. 5. Communication with stakeholders as per policy. And 6. A post-incident review to identify lessons learned and implement improvements. Prioritizing a structured, compliant, and well-documented approach over a rushed, ad hoc fix is paramount. Question 19. Risk assessment procedures indicate that migrating client data to a cloud computing environment is a strategic imperative for enhanced scalability and cost efficiency. However, the Associated Information Technology (AIT) exams regulatory framework mandates stringent data protection and privacy standards. Which of the following approaches best aligns with these requirements when selecting a cloud service provider? CSP. Option A. Rely on the CSP's self-declared compliance statements and marketing materials to confirm their adherence to data protection regulations, without seeking independent verification. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive due diligence process to evaluate the CSP's data security certifications, compliance audits, data handling policies, and incident response capabilities against the AIT exam's implied regulatory expectations. Option C. Select a CSP based on their reputation and positive user reviews, with the understanding that market leaders generally adhere to all necessary regulatory obligations. Option D. Prioritize the CSP that offers the most competitive pricing and a broad range of services, assuming their standard security measures are sufficient for general data protection. The correct answer is D. Prioritize the CSP that offers the most competitive pricing and a broad range of services, assuming their standard security measures are sufficient for general data protection. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the benefits of cloud computing with the imperative to protect sensitive client data, all within the strict confines of the Associated Information Technology (AIT) exam's regulatory framework. The AIT exam's jurisdiction, as implied by its focus on foundational IT principles, generally aligns with common data protection principles and best practices, often mirroring aspects of frameworks like GDPR or CCPA in spirit, even if not explicitly named. The core challenge lies in ensuring that the chosen cloud service provider, CSP, meets the necessary security and compliance standards without compromising the integrity or confidentiality of the data being processed. Careful judgment is required to select a provider that not only offers the desired technical capabilities, but also demonstrates a robust commitment to regulatory adherence. The correct approach involves a thorough due diligence process that specifically assesses the CSP's compliance certifications and data handling policies against the AIT exam's implied regulatory expectations. This includes verifying that the CSP has undergone independent audits and holds certifications relevant to data security and privacy, such as ISO 27001 or SOC 2. The approach correctly prioritizes understanding the CSP's data location, encryption methods, access controls, and incident response capabilities. This aligns with the fundamental regulatory principle of ensuring data is processed and stored securely, and in accordance with applicable laws and ethical standards, which are implicitly tested by the AIT exam. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost savings without adequate security and compliance vetting, fails to uphold the professional responsibility to protect client data. This approach risks regulatory noncompliance, potential data breaches, and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach that relies on the CSB's self-attestation of compliance without independent verification is also professionally unacceptable. While self-attestation can be a starting point, it lacks the objective assurance provided by third-party audits and certifications, leaving the organization vulnerable to undisclosed security gaps. Finally, an approach that neglects to define clear data ownership and responsibilities within the cloud contract creates ambiguity and potential legal liabilities, failing to meet the expected standard of due diligence and contractual clarity. Professionals should adopt a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves identifying potential risks associated with cloud adoption, assessing their likelihood and impact, and then implementing controls to mitigate them. For cloud computing, this means prioritizing security and compliance during vendor selection, establishing clear contractual terms, and implementing ongoing monitoring and governance. The process should involve cross-functional teams, including legal, compliance, and IT, to ensure all aspects are adequately addressed. Question 20. The evaluation methodology shows that a development team is experiencing delays in releasing a critical patch due to a bottleneck in their version control system's workflow. The current process requires all code changes to undergo a peer code review and an automated security scan before being merged into the main development branch. A senior developer suggests bypassing these checks for the urgent patch to expedite its release. Which of the following approaches best mitigates the risks associated with this situation while adhering to professional IT practices? Option A. Allow the senior developer to directly commit the urgent patch to the main development branch to ensure the fastest possible release. Option B. Perform only a basic syntax check on the urgent patch and merge it directly into the main development branch, deferring comprehensive security scans to a later date. Option C. Implement a temporary, expedited review process for the urgent patch that includes a focused security review and a senior developer's approval, followed by a mandatory full review and scan once merged into the main branch. Option D. Postpone the release of the urgent patch until the standard code review and security scan processes can be completed, even if it means significant delays. The correct answer is C. Implement a temporary, expedited review process for the urgent patch that includes a focused security review and a senior developer's approval, followed by a mandatory full review and scan once merged into the main branch. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for efficient development with robust security and compliance requirements, particularly concerning the integrity and traceability of code changes. The associate in information technology. 8. Certification implies a foundational understanding of IT principles within a specific regulatory context, which is assumed to be a general IT regulatory framework applicable to professional practice in the field, without specifying a particular jurisdiction beyond the exam's scope. The correct approach involves implementing a strict branching strategy that mandates code reviews and automated security scans before merging changes into the main development branch. This is the right approach because it directly addresses potential risks associated with unauthorized or insecure code modifications. Regulatory frameworks governing IT often emphasize data integrity, security, and auditability. By requiring reviews and scans, the organization ensures that all code changes are scrutinized for vulnerabilities and adherence to coding standards before becoming part of the production codebase. This process provides an auditable trail of who made what changes, when, and whether they were approved, which is crucial for compliance and incident response. An incorrect approach that bypasses code reviews for urgent fixes introduces significant risk. This failure to adhere to established processes can lead to the introduction of security vulnerabilities or bugs that could compromise system integrity or data security, potentially violating compliance mandates. Another incorrect approach, which is to only perform security scans on the final release without intermediate checks, is also problematic. While scans are important, relying solely on post-development scans misses opportunities to catch and fix issues early in the development cycle, increasing the cost and complexity of remediation and potentially delaying releases due to late-stage discoveries. Finally, an approach that allows direct commits to the main branch without any form of review or automated checks is fundamentally flawed. This practice undermines the integrity of the codebase, makes tracking changes difficult, and significantly increases the likelihood of introducing errors or security flaws, directly contravening principles of good software development and IT governance. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes risk assessment and adherence to established best practices and regulatory guidelines. When faced with urgent situations, the process should involve a rapid, but still controlled, review and approval mechanism rather than outright bypassing established controls. This ensures that, while agility is maintained, the core principles of security, integrity, and compliance are not compromised.